Hey everybody, welcome to my brand new show. I'm calling this Creed's Other Art. And I decided to start up this show on my channel because sometimes I draw art that's not cartoon stuff, like my show Saturday Mornings. And sometimes I draw stuff that's not monsters, like my show Nightmare Creatures. Now those two are the bulk of my art, but sometimes I like to draw something else, and I don't have a show for that, and it's kind of weird to fit it into one of those. So this is my catch-all show. It's going to be everything else, and right now it's going to feature some stuff from DC Comics. And also, it's pretty much my policy to focus on the art and not on myself as much as I can. But this is my origin story. See, the story of Blue Devil is also the story of how I became an artist, and the two cannot be split. So this is as much about me as it is about my art. So let me set a couple of things up here. Blue Devil #1 came out in 1984, and it's one of the best origin stories I ever read. It was Dan Cassidy was working on a movie as a stuntman and special effects guy. And the movie's called Blue Devil, and he builds a full body suit with servo motors and different gizmos all built into the suit. So it's a super suit he built. And over the course of shooting on this remote island with ancient ruins, they find a tablet that fits into a spot on the wall, which opens a portal to a demon dimension, and he ends up fighting this giant demon who thinks he's a real devil and tries to drain his power. And when he does that, the sorcery combines with his circuitry, and he is permanently in the suit. Blue Devil is my absolute favorite comic book character, and it makes me sad to see what DC has done with him since his series. But let's stay positive here. Okay, so around the time this comic came out, I was 10 years old, and up until this time I was a lot like Flint Lockwood from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. I wanted to be a scientist, but I wanted to be Professor Keenbean. I didn't want to just, put things on slides and look at a microscope. I wanted to be like, it's Tuesday, I invented an anti-gravity belt. And then it's Thursday, I invented a ring that you put on and walk through walls. And then on the weekend, I invented a hoverboard. And, I wanted to invent crazy, insane things. And it was just about that summer where I actually realized there's not that sort of a scientist. Even the people that work on this kind of stuff, they'll work their whole life and maybe have one little breakthrough on the project. They can't just, bam, here's the invention. And that doesn't interest me. I wanted to invent 1,000 crazy things, not part of one. So that summer I sort of didn't know what I wanted to be all of a sudden. And I was only 10, but I was pretty hardcore on the science thing before that. And it was a sunny summer day, so I walk down to the bottom of my street. I go to the store, I'm looking for a bag of chips or an ice cream or something. And I look over at the comic rack. Now, up until then, comics weren't really a thing to me. They were completely off my radar. I knew that they existed, but I didn't know anything about them. I never read really any, except for in a barber shop or something. And just on a whim, I think I was actually had my stuff picked out, and I was going up to the counter, and I looked over at the rack, and I was like, oh, okay. And I turned it, and I turned it again, and then I saw it. And I don't know if a lot of people know the exact second that they became an artist or whatever they are, but that was it. I saw the cover of Blue Devil #1, and I stood there for about 5 minutes looking at it, and my brain was being rewired. And then the first thought I had after that was, I need to be able to draw like this. And it wasn't I'd like to be able, no, it was, this is what I am going to do with my life. I need to be able to draw like who I didn't know at the time, but the artist was Paris Cullins, who is my artistic idol. Paris Cullins and Gary Martin. Now, Gary Martin didn't work on the first issue, but the team of Paris and Martin is my absolute favorite art creation team of all time. Their art is amazing. It's the best art I've ever seen. And it made me want to be an artist. I've seen a lot of great art in my life. None of it ever had that kind of effect, but the character design on Blue Devil and the writing really sparked something in me that I don't know where I'd be if I haven't seen it, because I don't think a comic would have came along later that would have done that. So that was just a lightning bolt moment. And actually, I'm gonna put up the cover here. You need to see this. I'm not worried about putting something up in this case. You need to see this cover. This is the greatest, to me, one of the greatest things I've ever seen. And to this day, I can't believe it when I look at it. And it itself is the whole reason that I have any artistic talent now, because I decided I was going to, which I think is pretty cool. So I bought the issue and I read it 100 times, and I had nobody to teach me how to draw. Like, I could go to school and they'd say, oh, here's how you draw. I'm gonna put a vase over there and here, draw that. That doesn't interest me at all. And so there's and I live in a small town on the East Coast. There was nobody that could draw comics that would be anywhere near me to teach me. So what I did, if I recall correctly, I think it was the whole first year, I bought, and I started buying more comics after that, mostly Blue Devil, and then the Justice League appeared in his comic, and okay, now I'm a Justice League fan. And then it spread out from there, and I basically spent the 80s and 90s living in the DC universe and teaching myself how to draw. Basically, like the first year, I think I went through, I don't know, 10 pads of tracing paper. And I didn't say, oh, look, here's my art. No. I thought, okay, these guys put a line down in a certain way, and these guys have all these techniques. I don't have anybody to teach that to me. So I'm going to copy their work and copy it and copy it and copy it. And I'll learn how to make lines like they do. And I'll learn how to do shapes like they do. And eventually I did. So after that, what I did was a lot of, because I gave up on the tracing. That wasn't I wasn't like, I'm going to be a tracer. No. That was to teach myself. And then after that, I did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of really bad drawings from the comics, and I got gradually better. And most of that early stuff, I don't think I even have any of it now, but it just looked like somebody trying to copy whatever was in the comic. I had no style of my own. I had no anything. I was learning everything. And what I found is what I wanted to focus on was not the shape and the form and I don't usually think three-dimensionally when I draw. I think about the placement of the line on the flat surface of the paper. And that probably comes across. A lot of my art isn't very dimensional at all. But what I really was interested in was where the line is and how the line is shaped. So I've drawn basically every good picture there is out there of Blue Devil. I've drawn 50 times, 100 times, including this one. And my reference for this piece is from Blue Devil number 25, the cover, which was of course by Paris and Martin. Now I've actually drawn this over time. This came out in '86. I've drawn this one image well over 100 times. But I haven't in years. I haven't really drawn comic stuff in at least a decade, actually. I've moved on to horror art, and then the last few years, cartoon art. But I've never gone back to comics, which is strange. And I never actually even thought about it. And then when I was looking for new, fresh ideas for the channel to kind of keep things interesting, I thought, well, actually, I thought of an idea, which this piece is a small part of a DC project I'm working on. And you'll see more about that shortly. A lot of those videos I think I'm going to combine into one big video because there's a lot of different pieces I've drawn that go all together. This is one of them, but Blue Devil deserves his own video. And I have a lot to say, so yeah. So this is drawn directly after Paris and Martin. But actually, I've drawn it so many times, and I've refined this image so many times. I mean, they drew it once, and they're amazing and brilliant, and they're my artistic heroes. But they drew it once. I've drawn this over 100 times. So I made a couple of small adjustments. I changed one of the lengths on one of the horns, and I changed his ear mostly, and then the rest of it minor subtle changes. And then plus it's done in my style, which is ink heavy, and that's not what originally it was for their art. But actually, and it's a sacrilege, but I actually like this image better than the one from the cover. And I've actually loved working on this DC project, and it actually it's pretty cool so far. It's almost finished. But the thing I did notice, going back to drawing comic art, see, when I draw cartoon stuff, that's really, the character is really homogenized. There's a style guide, and it's drawn by dozens of people, in other countries even sometimes. Like, animation's done more systematically, and not to stick with one artist's style usually. And comic books are different. The look of the character is the look of the artist's style that drew it. Like, I look at this and I see Paris and Martin filtered through Creed's inks, is what I see. It looks like I just basically re-inked it, to me. So it's hard to get away from the source material. I've found from all the DC things I've been drawing the last couple weeks, I can see all the source material in all the stuff very strongly, and almost to the point where I don't think I'll do a ton of comic book stuff, just because it's sort of just drawing the same thing but slightly different. I don't know. Basically, the source shows through a little more than my other art, and that makes it feel like it's a little less mine, if that makes any sense. But Blue Devil was a reluctant superhero. He had a lot of wisecracks. He was sort of Spider-Man-ish in personality, and he had a lot of cool adventures. Now, Paris and Martin only did the first 5 issues and the annual, and that's sad to me. I would have loved to see, hundreds of issues of their art, but you get what you get. Luckily, they did keep doing the covers through the whole run of Blue Devil. But eventually DC settled on this artist, and I don't want to go into a rage here, but I hate the guy. His art ruined the book. And then I read an interview, and he was like, oh yeah, Blue Devil, I didn't really care for the character, that was just a job. Well, I hope that guy rots in hell. So the artist that DC hired was Alan Kupperberg, and his art was, compared to Paris and Martin, was horrible. Just horrible. And it dragged the book down and down and down, and you could see it was going to finish the book off. And also the bad timing of, it was around the time of the Crisis in DC, and that was going to phase out this kind of a funny superhero book. You could see it. They're changing the universe. Didn't really have a spot for Blue Devil, which made me sad. But I place 90% of the blame and the failure of Blue Devil directly on Alan Kupperberg. And for a guy I never met, I really hate the guy. So there's my little bit of negativity that I usually try to keep out of things, but no, I hate that guy. So there's a little bit of that, and I'll leave it at that. So Blue Devil ended up with the title Weirdness Magnet because strange things are always drawn to him somehow. And during the course of his book, he actually ended up being sort of friends with Kane from the House of Mystery. Now, the House of Mystery is one of DC's long-running horror titles, and usually Kane would show up at the start, like the Crypt Keeper, and have a little thing to say. Then you'd have a story of somebody having something horrible happen to them, as all those comics used to go. It was like the old eerie or creepy kind of a comic. And The version of Kane Blue Devil became associated with is more lighthearted and wacky, which fit the book. But the very cool thing that the connection created was Blue Devil got to live in New York and LA. And his places were connected through a door through the House of Mystery. So he could be in his apartment in New York, go through the door, wander through the House of Mystery, go through another door, and come out in LA. And I thought that was super cool and interesting. They really should have did more with Blue Devil and Kane, I think. And actually, even later on, after his title was cancelled, they sort of never used Blue Devil in anything. And then when they did, of course, leave it to DC, they rebooted him, they redesigned him. Now, you don't redesign the best designed superhero I ever saw. That's ridiculous. But leave it to DC. That's all I can say about that. And I'm a die-hard DC fan. DC was my religion. And I hated Marvel so bad because it's a Coke-Pepsi kind of thing. You love one, you hate the other. That's how it was. And usually I say that and people say, well, no, well, I like both. That's lame. Pick a side. They're two competing universes. You know, pick a side. So I was totally DC's side. And I sort of faded away from comics a little bit. I'd say my DC universe would have started around the Detroit Justice League, so early 80s, and then late 90s. I would say I totally lost interest in DC when they killed Ted Kord, Blue Beetle. And then shortly after that, they erased the whole universe. And then what they did is they took all their characters and they did the equivalent of get a sticky note, write the character's name and a couple of attributes about them, and then that's what their character is. They lost the soul, they lost the history, they lost everything involved, and they just broke it down to names. And he has a cape, he's tall, he, you know, lives in a trailer, and that was the character after that. It wasn't, you know, they broke all their characters down to their base elements and flushed everything else and erased the continuity of the universe that I love. So I sort of hate DC now, at least the comics. Although they make great TV and really great animated movies. Their movies and their live action universe I have no use for whatsoever. And I've noticed during the course of these videos I've been making, this is the 10th video for my channel, and I've noticed, I said in one that this is about positivity. This whole channel is about positivity, and it is. But I also noticed that I do mention, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like anime, I don't like westerns, stuff like that. I'm not mentioning that to tell you what to like, and I'm not mentioning that to complain. What I mention things like that for is so I won't get weird requests that are way off base. When I started on Deviant Art, I didn't really mention any stuff like that, and I'd get a ton of requests. Oh, can you draw this from this anime cartoon? And can you draw? I was like, no, I don't even like that stuff. No, I don't. So if I mention that I don't like something, it's just to give you a corridor of what to expect from my art. You know, I will not have a pile of Western stuff. I will not have all these Japanese cartoon characters, because I don't enjoy any of that stuff at all. I enjoy North American cartoons. I enjoy superheroes. Pretty mainstream. The stuff I like is pretty mainstream. And like I said, when I mention that, I'm not trying to be negative. Negative is this little rant I had about Alan Kupperberg. Now there's my first negativity on the channel, and well deserved. But yeah, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not trying to be down, and I hate that it can sound a little bit like that. Oh, there's more negativity. I hate this and I hate that. Yeah, okay. Anyway, but no, I try to give you an idea of what to expect from my art. That's why I mention what I like and what I don't like. So Paris Cullins doesn't seem to have anything on DeviantArt, but Gary Martin is on there and has some really amazing work. One of the things he does a lot of, it seems, is commission work to recreate covers by other artists. And the guy is an amazing chameleon. You need to see it. I'll put the link down below. His handle on Deviant Art is SkyBoy. But yeah, he's the best inker in the business, and I still worship everything he does. It's amazing. So I'll put that link there. Now to wrap this up a little bit, this is kind of a long one. I have a lot to say on this subject because it's near and dear to my heart. So what I did this face for is I had an idea. I saw a post on Facebook. What fandom universe would you go to and why? And people were like, oh, Harry Potter, and some people would go to, I don't know, Marvel or whatever. No, I would absolutely go back home to the 80s, 90s DC universe. Not this whatever they got now, but, and see, I'd have no control over that. So I thought of that, the story. How would I traverse the multiverse to get to the DC that I want to get to? And House of Mystery and Kane, because the House of Mystery is set up in such a way that it's never the same place twice. It's all different inside. And I think every door in the House of Mystery would lead to a different part of the multiverse. So I come up with this idea for a vending machine that would be in the House of Mystery. So you wouldn't have to wander, you could just pick a universe through the vending machine. And on this vending machine, I wanted to put some classic DC faces. And that's what this is for. It's actually really small in the finished piece, but I drew each one of these as its own piece of art, which is half the reason why this project is taking so long. But I have this cool art to show. So yeah, this is just one of the character faces that are going to be on the vending machine. And of course, one of them had to be Blue Devil. And honestly, I'm so happy with how this came out. This is the best Blue Devil drawing I've ever done, and that's saying a lot because I've done hundreds and hundreds of Blue Devil drawings over time. So this is just the first little piece in this DC project, and arguably the most important to me anyway. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of history. I couldn't draw Blue Devil and not mention the importance of the character to me. It's everything. It's the reason I'm an artist. I don't know where I'd be right now if I wasn't an artist. So, and it probably would not be somewhere good. Art has really saved me in 100 different ways. And all the credit goes to Blue Devil and his creators, as far as I'm concerned. That's what started the whole ball rolling for me. So I hope you like this piece, and I hope you're interested enough in the 80s, 90s DC universe to like this finished piece when I come up with it, when I put it all together. It's sort of only for fans of 80s, 90s DC because nobody else would probably know what's going on or what the story is. So as it turns out, this project that I spent weeks on may actually just be for me and maybe 5 or 6 other people. It doesn't matter. I had it in my brain and I had to get it out. Once I had the idea, I had to finish it. So that was Blue Devil, and I do have more coming up. I think all the rest of the project is going to be one big video. This is the only one I wanted to split off on its own. So like I said, I hope you like how it turned out. I'm very happy with it, and stay tuned for the rest of the project and the finished piece. Thanks so much for watching, especially this one, which I know is a lot about me, and really, who cares? I really try to keep these about my art because my art is way more interesting than I am, and I'm not a giant fan of the spotlight. But that's my origin story right there. Creed was bitten by a radioactive devil and then was set loose upon the land to draw cool things. So yeah, that's it for today. Have a great day. Wow, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you'd like to see more of my art, the DeviantArt link is always in the description, and all my stuff from the last 4 years is posted there, so there's lots of stuff to see. And if you like this video, you might want to consider subscribing so you can keep up with all my new stuff. I post 2 new videos a week. So make sure to come back and see what I draw next time. But until then, have a good one.